Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Majority Podcast on its new slot, being on Wednesday evening. My name is Mark Devlin, and this is Scotland's #1 anti-nationalist podcast, going out live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. I'm here tonight with my co-hosts Niall Fraser and Mary Devlin.
Hello.
What are we going to be
Hello,
talking
everyone.
about tonight?
Well, tonight I'm going to be talking about Nicola Sturgeon's PretendyRef 2.
And I'll be asking why is the SNP full of sex pests?
Well, that's going to take
Now,
you
it's
a little
quite
while.
a question.
And I will be saying no to a separated Scottish Tory party.
And of course, we'll have the best segment of the week, the Zoomer of the Week.
We will be back in just a moment. Well, welcome back, and special announcement first of all is going to be that we are trying to change this to a Wednesday night. So, if you're wondering where we are, you're watching us tomorrow, or you time shifted, whatever, please, you can follow us now live on Wednesday, and you can always see us on YouTube after the fact, or even on Facebook as well. So, please join us on Wednesday. As usual, we start the podcast by thanking our donors, who are the people who make it possible to make this show. We have, if you would like to support us, please do come to our website and press the donate button. Every donation is most appreciated, and everything goes towards our fight against toxic nationalism. Tonight, we also like to thank our friends at UK Union Voice and Unite Against Separation for helping do the podcast. Sorry, that was Mary. It's supposed to be you, but Mary, wasn't it?
That's okay, go ahead.
Yes.
Yes, and
We are
please
thanking...
do like. Sorry, we're getting muddled up. Please do like, share, comment, tell your friends, extend the reach. Click a button. Good comments get read in the show, but please do keep them short so we can get them on the screen, and we'll try to get through as many as we can.
Okay, and you can also watch us on Twitter and YouTube, where you can subscribe, please.
Yep. Coming up, we were going to, one other thing we're going to do, we're going to have a special guest on in a second, and we're going to ask a question such as, when is a referendum not a referendum? When it is a PretendyRef? Mary will have more of that in just a second.
Okay, so yesterday, Nicola Sturgeon launched a new campaign for another referendum in 2023 for Scotland to separate from the rest of the UK. Angus Robertson said today that they intend to hold it next October. And Nicola Sturgeon has vowed to navigate a legal route towards another referendum. But Boris Johnson says the Scottish people have already made their views known at the 2014 referendum, and we should respect that. So it seems increasingly likely that any vote would not be sanctioned by the UK government. So tonight, I'd like to say we are joined by Allan Sutherland, the spokesperson for Scotland Matters, an activist group that you probably all know, well known for their billboards, the writing letters to newspapers, and other pro-UK activities. Hello, Allan. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Hi, Allan. Can you hear us okay?
We've lost the sound on Allan.
I've lost Allan's sound there. You okay?
Allan, are you muted? Are you there, Allan?
Right, we'll try and come back
we'll come back with that in a second. I can't hear you.
Right, okay. We'll try and come back on that in a second. Okay, so let's, Mary, you just continue with the sex segment, you and Niall, and then I will talk with Allan, see if I can get him on.
Okay, well, we'll do a little bit of preamble talking then. So Allan was featured, the reason we've asked Allan on tonight especially was because Allan was featured today in an article in the Scottish Daily Express saying that Scottish people would boycott any illegal IndyRef in droves if they Scottish Government tried to hold one without a Section 30 from Westminster. So that's what we wanted to talk to him about. I think one of the things that we should discuss about is the timing of this announcement. I think a lot of people are having a lot of trouble. What do you think, Niall?
I think the timing could not be worse. We're facing an economic meltdown. We've got wars in the Ukraine. We're just off the back of a worldwide pandemic. It could not be a worse time. It literally could not be worse. I mean, Mary, please help me. It could not be a worse time. Please. I mean, when do you think could have been worse?
Well, I think the only time I can think of that could possibly have been worse was at the beginning of the COVID pandemic. But I would say, I mean, okay, so that might have been a worse time, right?
Aye, fair enough. Aye, okay.
But for Nicola Sturgeon, she was on the TV every day during that. So, and it was just before the Scottish elections, if you remember. So she was enjoying.
I remember, yes.
Enjoying her time on the TV.
Right, so just to let you know, we're going to try Allan again. Hopefully that will work this time. Allan, can you hear us this time?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh,
yes, we can.
That's
okay.
Great.
Well, Allan, we're very pleased that you've joined us this evening. Thank you very much, and especially as you're on your holiday in the caravan. But today obviously today and yesterday are important days because of the announcement from Nicola Sturgeon that she's going for her PretendyRef 2. And we hear from Angus Robertson today that it's going to be next October. But what do you think about the timing of these announcements?
Well, I think if you're Nicola Sturgeon and you're trying to keep the ball kicking along the road, and you're saying, well, now you're saying it's going to be October, you've got to do something. So you might as well start with the easy bit, which is, look at all these other wee countries in the world that are doing fantastically well. Let us show you how they're doing, and we could be the same. But we're not going to touch currency or borders or EU or NATO or any of that thing. We'll leave that till sometime in the future when we've actually sorted it out amongst ourselves. So, I can understand that in June or July, that's 14, 16 months till they say they're going to have a referendum. So, the question is when they're going to run out of papers and actually try and get permission to do this. So
that's the big question, isn't it? The big question is, how can they have a legal referendum without having a Section 30 order? And it's pretty clear that the UK government is not going to give that. I mean, they've said multiple times. Theresa May said it. Boris Johnson said it. The other day they said it as well. Actually, I think those were formal requests as well. So it looks like we're stuck with this idea of the PretendyRef, and what do you think about that, the viability of that, Allan?
Well, there's two things. One is I can't see. I mean, Nicola Sturgeon said it yesterday. She doesn't want to have an illegal referendum. So if they were to do that, I mean, they're not going to get international recognition. There's talk of a boycott, and we've said, Scotland Martyrs said we'd be in favour of that. I see Douglas Ross has come out and said it, and maybe others. I'm on holiday, I'm not following all the news. So, it's going to be a farce. But it's going to be a farce that's going to ignite feelings still and detract from the main problems that are going on in Scotland. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I had a letter in the paper today that when I look at and listen to Sturgeon and Patrick Harvey on that show yesterday, I'm just in despair about Scotland, where it's going.
Yeah,
I mean, you and many others, yes.
Yeah. But I think there's a feeling, though, amongst people that, I don't know, I mean, it's a bit like the girl who described as the girl who cried referendum. She's been saying it's referendum so many times that she people don't really take it seriously now. I think there was a momentum for the 2014 referendum, and they've not got any momentum. There's no momentum in the polls. They've no momentum in their movement. Its major cheerleaders are gone. It seems like they're really running on empty, and I think people can see that in her proclamations and stuff, that they feel a bit empty, and even the name that we've given it, the PretendyRef, it's like it doesn't have much legitimacy. What do you think of that idea? Yes, Allan.
Well, I agree with it. I mean, we've discussed this long and hard before. The big job in Scotland is to get these people voted out.
Yeah.
And the way to get them voted out is an election. There's not going to be an election, but I think, well, there might be a general election, I suppose. Mm-hmm. But I think this Kate Forbes's plan to cut public expenditure and transform public sector and get rid of 40,000 jobs is going to do the job for us, because that'll touch people in the same way as the transport thing, the rail thing has touched hundreds of thousands of people. So will this. So all we can hope for is that more and more people, I keep saying, there's maybe 300,000 people read the papers in Scotland and are quite well informed, and their views won't change much. There's another 500,000, a total of 800,000 watch the TV news and get at best bland reporting on it. There's 4.3 million voters in Scotland. There's 3 million people in Scotland, I reckon, that don't really know what's going on, probably haven't heard of this announcement yesterday. And they're the people that need to somehow or other get touched by this. And that's what will do. That's what will get rid of the SNP and this PretendyRef you're calling. People need to. Not enough people know that this is going on, I don't think.
You think they'll just accept the idea? Oh, there's a referendum coming, so we'll go for it. I don't know. Are people? I think certainly on our side, people are very jaded, and as I said, I don't think there's much momentum on their side. What do you think, Niall?
Well, we're definitely jaded, Mark. I mean, I can speak for myself in that way, but it's for me. What Allan said about the people not being informed, that's absolutely the case. It's got to be, if more people were informed about the harebrained ideas, about the scandals, about the incredible waste of money that the SNP's brought upon us all, they wouldn't exist anymore. But it's they thrive off the uninformed masses, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, people. This is an unusual situation because she's been forced to admit several things as well. Like, for example, there'll be a hard border. I have the article somewhere here. And people are like, in fact, I've got the clip here. I think this is the one from Channel 4. Let me see if we can see this.
You want to be frank with people. You want to be in the EU. Do you therefore agree with just about every reputable expert who say that there will be checks on goods going from England and Wales to Scotland, and there will be a trade border between England and Scotland? Will there be a border, First Minister?
I would encourage you to listen back to the answer I've just given to Peter. I am not going to repeat the mistakes of Boris Johnson and pretend that implications of the decisions we take don't exist. If we are in the single market and the rest of the UK is outside the single market, then yes, there are issues in terms of regulatory and customs requirements that need to be met. What I'm saying is not that these challenges don't exist, but these challenges can be managed in a way that doesn't present disadvantages to our businesses. And of course, what the benefits of that situation are is the ability to trade freely within a market that is 7-8 times bigger than the UK.
I thought this was quite interesting for perhaps a different reason than other people might think. So I'll get back to the normal view here. All right. That what she's saying there is, it doesn't matter if you're an ordinary person want to get across the border and visit your family. What's important here is that some companies can get free trade with a bigger market. Like, well, wait a minute. First of all, there's much more competition in that bigger market. And the second thing is, just across the border, this hard border you're creating, there already is a market.
Yes.
50 million people you're cutting yourself off from.
Well, most of our trade is with England. I think it's like 60% of our trade is with, not England, with the rest of the UK, sorry. So, the European market is actually, it's a smaller market for us. So that doesn't make sense.
What do you think of that, Alan?
Well, this is an example of them playing the numbers. There's 500 million people live in the EU, and we do 20% of our trade with the EU, and 60% of our trade with the rest of the UK. So we do 3 times as much. I did a calculation about this. I forget how much it is per head of person in the EU, but it's tiny compared to per head of person in the UK. But this is a way that, because people don't understand arithmetic anymore, a lot of people don't think in numbers. They get away with this kind of thing. And I'm down here in a border. I won't tell you which border, but I bought a town on the border with England at the moment, and we went to Gretna Green at the weekend just to see what it was like, and we crossed the border twice going over and twice coming back. And I was speaking to a shopkeeper here in this town, a spar shop, and got talking to him about it. They said if there's a border between England and Scotland, my shop's finished simply because the access roads into this town in Scotland aren't big enough for the big trucks that come into his village. Mm-hmm. It's as simple as that. It's a classic little example of what people on the border of Scotland, for example, will face. And as everybody keeps saying, if we come out of the EU, if we come out of Scotland, Skexit is going to be a bigger problem than Brexit. That's true. But this whole thing about it being a bigger market is conning people.
Mm-hmm. Well, a bigger market, as I said, it's a bigger market for some companies, but it's not. That's not important to people when they're trying to, cross the border. As you say, 4 or 5 times. We had a holiday in the border very similar to yourself last year. We were back and forward across the bridge loads of times. And that's not the defining part of why a border shouldn't be there. But people are travelling all the time for their families and so on, especially in the border regions, of course. But people are travelling, and they don't need to have this extra hassle for their freedom of movement, as they always talk about freedom of movement. Let's talk for a second about some kind of arrogance that Sturgeon has in this thing here. I noticed this article here, which was this year. Nicola Sturgeon offers to negotiate independence referendum with democracy denier Boris Johnson.
What a total joke.
And she said in the thing, well, my door is always open. It's like, what do you think of that, Niall?
Well, obviously, it's a complete joke. I mean, not only is she denying democracy with 2014 referendum, put that out there, but then she's denying the Brexit vote too. So, I mean, she's denying it twice and then saying that he's denying democracy. It's Orwellian, it's crazed, it's lunacy. There's no enough words to describe just how ridiculous this is. I mean, Sturgeon... She's flying by the seat of your pants, everyone. She doesn't know what she's doing. I think she's trying to play the EU off against Britain and use the EU as a wedge to separate the entire United Kingdom. It's diabolical what she's doing. Diabolical.
We'll take a second, and then we'll come back with another clip of Nicola Sturgeon. Right, we have this one here. This is another one coming up. Let's see
the second principle that is really important is rule of law. Any process has to be lawful and legal.
Will you then be asking for that Section 30 order?
That request is well known, but
will you be making it formally?
Well, I think I've made it formally in the past. If I need to renew that, I will happily do that. So we have to work out, and this work is underway, how we navigate our way towards a lawful process with a UK government that doesn't respect democracy.
Jeez, that's just
unbelievable.
Respect democracy thing just is nuts, isn't it?
It really does grate on me, actually. It really does. It gets under my skin.
So now we have discussed on here a couple of times in the past, and we've tried to think about what kind of legal route that Nicola Sturgeon might have. Allan, do you have any ideas on this? Is this something you might have discussed at Scotland Matters? Can you see any way forward that would actually be legal?
Well, I'm not a lawyer and I'm not a constitutional lawyer, and I listen to what people are saying, and it sounds to me that unless they go to the Supreme Court and find some clever way of getting allowed to do this, and then I'm sure the British government is going to appeal to all that, this will just go on and on and on. I mean, I just can't. I don't know enough about the constitutional law to be able to comment on it, but I just don't think if the UK government says you can't have it, it's a huge and costly process, and I just can't see it happening. So
I just wonder
more than that, I don't know. I'm not.
Well, I just wonder how legitimate people will feel with something like that. If it's done through the legal system, and it's like, oh, we've fought all this way in the legal system, and then just by some quirk, for example, maybe an activist judge or something like that, they get a referendum, and then the other side is just completely disenfranchised. They're like, well, this was you've finagled your way, or whatever the word is, to getting this referendum, and I think as it goes along that process, it gets less and less legitimate, even if they get some result. Before we did say that we had, I wrote an article about how their plan is actually to run a PretendyRef. Mike Russell talked about this, how to run a pretend referendum, and they think it doesn't matter if the pro-UK people even participate, and the reason for that is that they're going to use any result, whatever result they've got, as a way to try and force some international agencies to pressure the UK. It's just seems very. It seems a bit ridiculous. What's your feeling on the mood for that type of thing, Alan?
I think as Mike Russell was more and more. I don't know what the polite word is. Let's just say out on a limb with this thing. They're just clutching it. I call it clutching it. Well, you call it clutching at straws. I had a letter the other day saying what they're doing is they're clinging on to a huge haystack or spin on fantasy. And Mike Russell's a classic example of that. It's just, I just think it's nonsense. People outside of Scotland will wonder what on earth's going on. People in Scotland, as I said, won't really understand what's going on. They might fall out on a whim. It's our job, and the politicians' job, and the television programme's job to let people know just exactly what this is all about and get people informed in it. Because it's got to be nonsense in this country. We're living in an island that's never been invaded for 1,000 years. And 300 years of these we've been in a union. Even before that, we're hardly ever invaded. Why would we want to change that? But that's for another topic and another programme, I suppose.
Well, especially in this times when we've got, Putin's aggression and Chinese influence across the world, financial and military and so on like that, I think we would just be setting ourselves up to be, Scotland would be setting us up as a target. And I can't see the US going for that. There was an article the other day about the bases and how they want to give up the Faslane base. But of course, the Americans are never going to go for that, and then join NATO. That's it, and the Americans are never going to go for that. So I think we're hitting more rapidly towards this wall of reality that's coming, and it's in all fronts almost.
There's 2 years ago, you'll remember this, Mark. These Guantanamo and the Clyde seminars that we're doing. They were doing the SNP, where what the idea was that they'd rent out Faslane to the British government. And I spoke to Angus Armstrong from the IFS at a seminar once. There's going to be a huge financial debate and negotiation between Scotland and England and the RUK if this happens. And one of the bargaining chips they think is going to be Faslane. And then you have Alan Smith talking about, maybe we have to give up this anti-nuclear thing in order to appease people. They're all over the place with it. But what they reckoned in this Guantanamo and the Clyde thing, that the SNP thought they'd get $2 billion a year for renting out Faslane to the British government. And in the Ministry of Defence Journal, at the same time, they said the maximum we could ever think of getting it, if the UK wanted it, would be $1 billion a year. It's just all nonsense.
Yeah, I mean, it's all like dancing in the head of a pin. I mean, we have another word for that, which I won't mention right now. Let's have a listen to Nicola again, defending. This time, this is a very short clip, but should cheer you all up a little bit.
Now, you want a referendum next year. What will we get first, a ferry or a referendum?
Oh, here we go.
Absolutely beautiful clip. Absolutely.
Okay, we'll try
beautiful.
one more time.
Can we run that 10 times in a trot, please, Mark?
Now, you want a referendum next year. What will we get first, a ferry or a referendum?
It's too good.
Well, that's what we'd all like to know, isn't it? And I should say that, we haven't really talked about how all of this, it just adds to the neverendum that's going on in Scotland. We can't move forward. We're just stuck. We're not going anywhere. And even today, the dollar dropped to its lowest value against the pound since the beginning of COVID, and the lowest value against the euro, all based on the idea that there could be another referendum in Scotland, because it just causes unrest and division and uncertainty, and markets don't like uncertainty.
I've got.
Which do you think now? Which do you think is going to be finished first? We're going to get first, referendum or ferries?
No, I don't even know the answer to that question. I mean, assuming the SNP go to power, we'll get the ferries first, because the SNP, it won't deliver a referendum that the public can really get behind at all. It's going to be an illegal PretendyRef, and that's not a referendum, isn't it? So
No,
I
it
think
really
that
isn't.
the ferries will come first, strangely. Although she
So,
did launch a ferry already.
well, yes, that
Well-
has been launched, but hasn't sailed. The face that sunk or
I've
didn't
got
launch
a
some
sort of
ferries.
closing question for Allan. So, I mean, we all know in this programme that Sturgeon can't hold a legal referendum or a Indy 2, and Boris has ruled out giving her one. So, is this not just more appeasement of our lunatic rabid followers than anything else? Is this what it is?
Well, that's absolutely what I think it is about her. But I mean, if you read the Nationals, I do sometimes. They know full well that she's not doing it either. I mean, people are criticizing. You'll be doing this as well, looking at all the Facebook pages. They don't trust her either. I don't know. And people say she just wants to hang on to her job. I can't believe that either. I actually don't know why they're doing this now and not coming clean as they should have been in 2014 and say, right, we're going to reset this. We're going to spend the next few years showing you how well we can run Scotland, showing you how well we can go before we need independence. Then we'll come back to you for a referendum again, and you can judge us on a record, as I keep saying. That's what they should have done. And all they're doing now is spinning this along. So, yeah, I can't see their followers really supporting her. The problem is, as we know, there's no successor to Nicola Sturgeon. Or I'm sure she would have been. The men in grey kilts would have been in there by now.
Well, yeah, but it's, as you say, reality is coming up fast. Probably the idea is I think many people think, okay, she's going to say, I tried my best and flounce off to some kind of international job somewhere. When she's going to do that, who knows? But I don't know. I mean, you see her tone in these interviews. Like, if you're trying to sell someone a new and exciting world, right?
Yeah, she's defeated. It's a
Why
defeated tone.
why are you arguing with people like the way you argue with that? You say, of course, it's you present it and you're friendly about it because who wants to be in a country where a grumpy cow is the leader? I mean, that's argumentative person, and that's the thing. And that's you want to follow someone who seems actually quite nice. And I mean, I know that she's got her fans and stuff, but this attitude, I think, is very off-putting to I think a lot of people as well.
Just a wee segment on. I mean, we see Alba. Their plan. I mean, Alba, I think, are more grounded in reality than the SNP, right? So their plan is a plebiscite election with the general election. At least to me, that's a plan.
It doesn't make
Nicola
any
Sturgeon
sense.
has no plan.
I was arguing with a guy about this today, and it's like, okay, you can have your. Let's say you could even organise a plebiscite election, which basically means that the election is a proxy for a referendum. But the Electoral Commission is going to be all over that for a start, and then the next part is because the risk is if they had enough power to say that this election could be a proxy referendum, then people might boycott that, and you can't be boycotting a general election. So the Electoral Commission would be all over. But let's assume they even did that. How is it enforced? Right? They've got 48 MPs right now in Westminster. Okay, out of 59. So they're not doing anything with that. They could do it if they really had this. They go, we've got the claim of right, and we'll come back, bring our MPs back from Westminster, and we'll form a government. It's like, it's impossible. Why would they do it? They couldn't. They can't do it now. They can't do it after this plebiscite election. It's just another delusion, I think.
Yep.
I'm going to round off this section now, talk a little bit about boycotting and Pretendy referendum. We put a thing out to our followers today. Where is it? Okay, here. I will boycott the PretendyRef. Retweet if you will too. 456 retweets so far and counting. If you'd like to retweet that, please go on to Twitter. But what's better to do is to actually just boycott the referendum. There's no cost to boycotting this Pretendy referendum. It's all winning our side, I think. What do you think, Alan? Final thoughts?
Well, I'll be honest with you, I never really had thought about it much, other than we know that's the sort of thing that would happen. And I think it's early days to be actually trying to organise a boycott for a illegal referendum that isn't actually there yet. But I think, obviously, the thing to do is at the moment, to keep the threat up, to say that if you have an unofficial referendum, then we're going to boycott it. We don't have an organisation yet going around the doors asking people to boycott it, because we don't need one, because you're not having a referendum. But if you do have an illegal referendum, the pro-UK side will either join together or in their own groups, and probably get some money to do it, will promote a boycott. And I think that's all we need to say just now.
Yes.
And that's what we've said.
I think so. And I see comments are coming in. Yes, they will boycott it. Rita, Paul, and I'm sure if you want to boycott it, send us a yes message. There we go. And Kenny as well, all coming in with great comments. Now, it was really great that you got your article in the Daily Express about boycott. It's something that's going to go on. I think there's just a grassroots feeling anyway that people are going to boycott it anyway. And it's good. Douglas Ross, for all his faults, came out and said that he would boycott it. I'm pretty certain if Anna Sauer has pushed that will happen as well, but I don't even know if we'll get to that point.
Yeah.
So great. Thanks a lot for coming to see us, Allan.
Yes, thanks
enjoy the
a lot,
rest
Allan.
of your.
Thanks very much for having me.
Enjoy your
the rest
holiday.
of your break.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
We'll talk soon when you get back.
Thank you.
Okay, cheers then.
All right, take
Thanks.
care. Bye now.
Goodbye.
Right, well, that was a pretty good section there from Allan Sutherland from Scotland Matters. They have a very nice website you can go and see, scotlandmatters.co.uk or call me. I'm sure you can find it on Google. They have do a lot of activist stuff. They've done a lot of billboards, a lot of different kinds of social media work as well. So, and Allan they have one thing that they're very strong on is writing letters to the newspapers. And so you'll see Allan often in whatever newspaper it is.
Yep.
Coming up, we are going to talk about sex pests in the SNP.
Sex pestery, yes.
Okay.
Sex pests in the SNP, yes. Shocking. And I'm going to be talking about Tories again. I wish we didn't have to talk about them, but we will talk about them in the abstract this time. Okay, so back in a second.
Right, okay.
Niall, you can have a go at this one then.
This evening I'll be detailing the sex pestery in the sordid Nationalist Party. So it's been quite a week in the news, the mind-numbingly monotonous world of Groundhog Day Scottish politics. You know, on the same day that Sturgeon was firing the starter pistol for what was it, the umpteenth time, proclaiming it's time for Indy, another SNP politician appeared prominently in the news, Patrick Grady, or Mini Murrell as I like to call him. So Patrick Grady was or is, I mean, who actually cares, but he's the chief whip in the Westminster gaggle of SNP polls.
That's not what the Hervey thing is about.
Yes, it is. So maybe he took the position to mean that he could whip people with impunity, such as the stupidity of the SNP. So Patrick becomes the latest member of the SNP to completely and utterly disgrace Scotland by way of sexual misconduct. This is a Scottish MP in Westminster representing Scotland, and what's he doing? Sexual misconduct. It disgraces us all, folks. Every single one of us. Is this what Scotland is to be known for? Handsy politicians making unwanted sexual advances towards teenagers. Are we going to forget Derek Mackay's conversations with a 16-year-old boy? I mean, let's look at some of the SNP sordid sexual scandals, right? So I've got some written down. This was just picked out there. Mark John Kerr, so he stepped down as a SNP councillor after being charged with sexual abuse. Angus MacNeil apologising for a hotel threesome with 17 and 18-year-old girls. Patricia Gibson's weird love triangle or love square, whatever you want to call it. And who can forget the whole big salmon trial? I mean, it's just non-stop with these folk.
Put the video up for that. An image up
we
for
don't
that.
need a video for that, to be fair. But
no, we don't want a video.
I mean,
That's
there's plenty more instances of sexual depravity. But again, this is a party that thinks it's completely fine to invite drag queens called Flowjob into primary schools to read to the kids, right? So it's no secret as to where their moral compasses point. So the SNP, they've got a complete monopoly on sleaze. They've got a monopoly on sleazy skullduggery in Scotland. Nothing, and I repeat, nothing surprises me more, or could surprise me, about the depths of depravity that the SNP have sunk and continue to plumb. I mean, of course, we've got the rumour of a certain super injunction surrounding a certain SNP person concerning extramarital affairs in a certain Edinburgh hotel. But that's all just pure speculation, isn't it? Anyway, let's look at Patrick Grady's meaningless apology.
Right, here we go.
I accept the findings of the independent expert panel and the Parliamentary Commissioner for Standards in full and without reservation. On the 20th of October 2016, at an SNP social event, I made an inappropriate physical advance to a junior member of SNP group staff.
Very junior.
My behaviour and the intent behind it was a significant breach of the Behaviour Code and the Sexual Misconduct Policy for the UK Parliament. The breach is aggravated by a considerable...
Look at all the
SNP
MPs, look at them all.
And the complainant.
Shame.
And further aggravated by excessive consumption of alcohol on my part. I was wrong to make assumptions about the social and personal relationship that existed or had the potential to exist between myself and the complainant, and wrong to act on those assumptions. Blurring personal and professional boundaries in a work environment can be highly problematic, causing confusion, embarrassment, upset and distress.
So, of course, has he been fired? This is the big question. Was he fired?
No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't. I mean, see, if he was truly sorry, he would have resigned immediately, guys. Everyone, the viewers, let me know, would you like this guy's resignation? I certainly would. Not only has he disgraced himself, he's disgraced the office MP, he's disgraced all of his constituents, and he's disgraced the entirety of Scotland here. Maybe instead of Sturgeon, expecting a certain level of intelligence, I would put it to you, the viewers, and you let me know if I'm right.
Well, while we're waiting for those comments to come in, we can say, what about that other guy who was the MP recently, who was looking for tractors or something, right? And you get the Dominator tractor, and he ends up in the porn site or something like that. Yeah. But he was kicked out, booted out, right?
I think he resigned. Did he not resign?
Well, he was forced to resign.
I think he resigned.
Just to finish off the point, maybe instead of Sturgeon's expecting a certain level of intelligence, I would put it to you, the viewers, that in order to join the ranks of the SNP, we expect a certain level of sleaziness, folks. Do you think I'm right? Tell me in the comments, because I certainly think I'm right.
Well, we've got some good comments here. For example, Rita Johnson is saying they've brought our country down into the gutter. I think that's how a lot of us feel. We just feel a little bit like we've been tarnished. We're a bit sordid with all of this going on.
Well, it's constant, isn't it? It's if it wasn't the three in a bed, Angus McNeil, then it moved on to various councillors who've been doing all kinds of things, and then we got Alex Salmon, who'd rolled on for ages, and of course we have to say that Alex Salmon was found not guilty of that, although some of his behaviour, one of the things was actually he admitted to was inappropriate. And then it just goes on with, you've got what's his name, the sexting, and then they had the cheek to stay on for a year and take our money.
And remember, Derek Mackay got over 30 grand in a golden handshake after having tried or attempted to groom a 16-year-old boy. Are our conversations secret? How can we forget this?
That's the thing I don't really understand. It was genuine grooming, and he didn't. Nothing really happened to him, and he's doing consulting work, I think, for the Scottish government. This is the thing, they don't care about that. We talk about this a lot in the show, but they don't care, because as long as they slavishly adhere to the party line that they will get a referendum or they want to get independence, then anything can happen. Sleaze, incompetence, just just basic inability to do anything. They just need to show up and clap and fill a seat and say the Tories are bad, or Westminster are bad, or the Labour are red Tories, or whatever it is. That's the attack of the day, and this is all this guy needs to do. Is to stand up and do it. You see that Margaret Ferry, that's another example. Natalie McGarry. It just goes on and on and on. There's a list. Effie Dean's made a list of 500 scandals, and there's so many. It's just stacking up every day. You're like, oh, this is, but no, they don't care. They don't care, because as long as they've got the golden carrot of independence is stuck out in front of their face, where they go, oh, you want to independence? They're blinkered. They don't see what the rest of that they're being beaten behind by a party machine or whatever it is, and you don't see this stuff.
I think another issue we have to think about is, we're always wanting to encourage young people to get involved in politics. But you'd have to be a little bit scared, wouldn't you, of letting your teenagers, around any of these people? You don't know what's going to happen to them.
Well, again, it gets back to what I've said. We expect a certain level of sleaziness, right? So, I mean, this is, I'm going to coin that phrase. We need a certain level of sleaziness within the SNP to join them. It's just,
it's true. The people put that on.
That's part of young people to get involved in politics.
Oh, it's part of the application process, right? Okay, so you want to join the SNP then? All right, okay. Right, are you a groomer? Oh yeah, I do that. Oh, fine, good. Okay, would you like 3 in a bed? Oh yeah, sure. What about sex surveys for kids? Ah, yeah, sure, great. Yeah, all that stuff. It's great. Yeah, right, you're in.
Yeah,
right.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Okay.
You want to be chief whip?
When you actually find out what the chief whip is, they're probably a bit bored. Moving along, we thank you for your comments. Coming up, I'm going to be talking about an idea that the Scottish Tory shouldn't do. So we'll be back in a second. Right, some ideas just won't die. Like the earth is flat, or that men never went to the moon. But don't you let start. And they gather momentum, and no amount of proof will ever set people straight. And one such zombie idea that won't die is that Scottish Tories should break away and storm their own renamed party. This zombie idea was recently raised again in an article by our favourite fake Tory, Andy McKeever. Now, you might remember Mr. McKeever. He's been on the telly these past few years saying that he is an ex-Tory communications chief or something like that. And he's always branded as that. And he's on this chat shows as the token Tory. Well, it turns out he's not a Tory at all. Mm-hmm. And he's one of these people and when you actually see what he talks about, you think, oh, this guy isn't actually a Tory. Well, why is he presenting himself as a Tory on the TV? And for example, he's always like saying, well, we should have a second referendum. I mean, do you know any Tories or even pro-UK people who really think there should be a second referendum now?
Not one.
So it's a bit weird, it's a little bit strange, this guy. Anyway, after writing an article about how there should be the second referendum, he came out with this article saying that the only way forward for the Scots Tories was to create a new party. Here it is. There's a nice wee picture of Dougie and his pal, Ruth, on the beach having some ice cream. Andy McKeever, Douglas Ross, only options to create a new party. And of course, that's one of the sexual misconduct things. That's moving that back. So millions of them, 2 million. Every page is like that. Anyway, so McKeever says, what does he say? He says, he wants a political party which has no relationship to the Tory party, formal or informal, has no involvement in elections to Westminster. A political party which is, according to him, unimpeachably Scottish. A political party which, in time, could play a role in unsticking Scottish politics, normalising us as if we're not normal, and, dare I say, Europeanising our political party structures.
What the hell does that mean?
Do you want
it means the Tories have still never got over Brexit, so are they going to start campaigning saying we can go back into Europe?
Well, that's part of it, isn't it? I mean, that's the thing. What he sounds like is he's making a pitch for a party that has that wants to go back into Europe and doesn't want anything to do with Boris Johnson. That sounds to me remarkably like the Lib Dems. Now, that party already exists.
Yes.
There is a Lib Dem party, and good luck to them, whatever they do. That's fine. Alex Cole-Hamilton is pretty good again, pro-UK. We're all good with that. But, if you want to be a Tory, be a Tory. If you want to be a Lib Dem, be a Lib Dem. They already have a party, and they don't actually have that. The Lib Dems don't actually have that much support. So what's being proposed here, I think, is an idea that the Tories should become Lib Dems and have less support.
I mean, what Andy McKeever is saying here, he wants the complete demolition of the Scottish Tories. Because they won't ever come back for a situation like this. I mean, I think they're in terminal decline anyway, but this will just end them for sure. I don't know where Douglas Ross goes for here, but starting a new party is the exact opposite of a good idea. I mean, Scotland does need a new party, I think, but I don't think it comes in the form of these washed-up Tories.
Yeah, I think that's a discussion for another time.
Yeah, I think this they've got this idea that they can never win. I think McKeever starts with this idea. Well, the Tories can never win in Scotland because of whatever they make up, whatever line it is. And there is some reality to that. The Tory party has been stuck at a certain level and wavering 30% or whatever it is in Scotland. But I think Scottish results are really skewed by the nationalists being in power. If there were no nationalists. Now, this is a thing to imagine. Maybe in the future we can say, "Oh, there are no nationalists." Then you basically have a fight between Labour and the Tories. And Labour was traditionally strong in Scotland, but Labour was also traditionally strong in the north of England, the so-called Red Wall. And Boris, was able to reach out to those people and say, "Look, you supported Brexit, or you supported the issue of the day, let's even call it." And and appeal to those people. So there's nothing that says the future is determined by the past. And so I think that's just an aside, I guess. But I think in general, the idea that if they want to make this separate party, then it just gifts nationalists years of headlines. The Scottish Tories hated Westminster so much that they wanted to separate too. Right, it's a separatist project. We want a separate Scottish Tory party. Well, what about the UK? Oh no, we don't like Boris. Well, why even bothering then? We don't like Brexit. Why are you bothering them? That's what the party's about. That's your party leader. That's your main policy. Oh, we don't like. Next will be up saying, oh, we don't like the Rwandan immigration scheme. We don't like this. We don't like all that. It's like, well, okay, form your own party, but let the rest of us get on with it. If you the rest of people who want to be actual Tories, get on with it.
But as you say, it would be a gift for the nationalists because it's divide and conquer. I mean, it really wouldn't be hard to beat the Scottish Tory party, would it? If they didn't have all the the benefits of the UK Tory party, if they didn't have all the great things that they've done behind them.
Well, they're showing themselves to be easily to defeat anyway.
Well, they've already been. They've tried all
easier now. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be even easier though, wouldn't it?
Yeah, so my rule of thumb is, to read whatever McKeever says and do the opposite. Like SpongeBob and Opposite Day. Do the opposite of what he says and give this zombie-separated Scots Tory party a double shot to the head.
Yeah, double
Put this idea out of its misery, so we don't see it rising again next year and the year after that.
Yeah.
Your comments are most welcome on this particular issue, as they are on every issue. We are heading off to Zoomer of the Week, and you can come with us. Right, Mary, you're up first.
Okay, so hold on a wee second while I just get my little caption up there for my Zoomer of the Week. Okay, so where am I? Right, so my Zoomer of the week, I know it's not that interesting, but my Zoomer of the week is going to be Nicola Sturgeon. She has to be, guys, she has to be, because she's announced a new push for PretendyRef 2 at the worst possible time when Scotland and the UK were dealing with momentous issues we've got transport, we've got airlines, trains and ferries are all in chaos. As far as health is concerned, we've got waiting lists, A&E and ambulance emergencies. People can't see a doctor. In education, we've been panned by the OECD for the low standards and for Scotland not having any vision as far as education is concerned. So I have to actually agree with Douglas Ross this week, who said that Nicola Sturgeon should give it a rest and focus on the people of Scotland's priorities now. And even Alex Cole-Hamilton said the First Minister must be wired to the moon if she thinks that breaking up the UK is the priority for people. So if Nicola Sturgeon plans to put the country on hold effectively and stir up what could be dangerous levels of division and lead Scotland towards possible anarchy, then she is my Zoomer of the week.
Well, she just keeping the whole never-ending industry going, right? So we talked with the golden carrot, and all the Alba people are always the carrots. Now the carrot is going to become the official vegetable of Scotland, it seems. So, well, I mean, that's.
I love.
Do you have an official vegetable already? I don't know. But now I have declared that
the
carrot from now will become the official vegetable of Scotland, and that's the carrot that Nicola Sturgeon puts in front of indie supporters at every opportunity.
Yeah,
Niall.
I absolutely loved what Alex Cole-Hamilton said. She must be wired to the moon if she thinks that breaking up the UK is a priority for people. He's spot on with that, and I've been following Alex Cole-Hamilton quite a lot recently, and he's come out with some incredible statements, and that is one to add to the list.
Well, that is good. I mean, we could go on for weeks, basically, on whether Nicola Sturgeon is a Zoomer. I think that this idea, trying to force a referendum when you've got no momentum, there's been 40 polls. The last 40 polls, only 4 have shown a slight increase for yes. Now, you might say, okay, if a lot of people say, oh, it's 50-50, so there's worth a chance, But it's actually and they'd like to say, well, we only started at 25% last time, right? And you go, well, you started at 25% last time. You had Alex Salmond. You had a more positive case. You could believe that it could work, perhaps, and you had momentum. There's no momentum at all. They've got no momentum. They've got no poll results, and they've got a leader who's angry at everybody. It's like, how is that going to work? And and there's no legal path. So why is she doing this? She's doing it just to keep her supporters on side. That's weak.
Well, the reason she's my Zoomer of the week is the timing. This is just like the worst time that she could be doing this.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Very good. Come back. Next up is going to be Niles.
Right, so I'm not going to waste anyone else's time here. My Zoomer of the week is Patrick Grady. I know I've covered him at length. Disgracing the entirety of Scotland with his lurid sexual advances. And I think I've already covered this in detail, but I want to reiterate just the shame that this brings upon us all. I mean, does people not have any shame these days? They stand up in Parliament and say that. It's utterly, it's galling, and you've seen the faces of the SNP politicians sitting there in abject disgrace. It's horrible to see. It's a horrible situation, and yet again, it's been brought by the SNP and their proclivity for sexual deviancy, it would seem.
What's worse about it is you get the 2 days suspension, right? And he's
2 days.
He's back there. 2 days. Yeah, 2 days suspension.
2 days.
Nobody will even notice.
Nobody will notice.
That's a weekend.
But he won't notice.
It's
just
that's not really good at all. I mean, I don't know. How old is he anyway? Do you know?
I think he said there was a 17-year difference, so it was a 19-year-old. I think he was 35 or 36. So there was almost double the age there. It's outrageous.
No, that's no good. Yeah, that's no good. Alcohol was involved.
He was born in 1980, so that makes him 42.
42 to teenagers. That's not very good, is it really at all? I will. Okay, hold on. Just to add on to this Zoomer of the week, I've got slightly the same kind of topic, I suppose, is my Zoomer is going to be, oh, geez, where are my notes? It is Kirsty Blackman, who this week said that voted for Patrick Grady, Sex Pest, to remain in the SNP. This is despite this previous proclamation here. Let's have a look at this. This is from, oh, wait a minute. It's only from the 28th of April 2022. Senior SNP MP says any colleague guilty of sexual misconduct should be kicked out of the party.
Interesting.
Well,
Interesting.
why are they not kicked out? You know, that's bad. But she voted to keep him in, presumably because they had a party vote, and that's not really the way it should be going. So,
But they're really not very self-aware, are they? I mean, she knows the party's full of sex pests and deviants, and then she stands up and says something like that. You know that's going to come back to haunt you if you had any sense.
Well, it is. I suppose it is. It's just full of the dregs of society. It seems. You know, is there a person you can look at in that party and say, "Well, this person is a shining character, noble character," and I would be willing to follow them because they're noble and pure and all this. And you're like, no, it's still tainted good, really, isn't it?
No, there's not
really
one
is.
person in the SNP
Not much
that
respect.
is. Oh, there's no one inspiring. There's no. It's just zero person in the SNP that inspires you at all.
However, I have to say
what's
that
the opposite of inspiration? That's what it is.
Desperation? I don't know.
Yes, despair. Anyway,
Yeah.
desperation.
Desperation.
Yes. That's what we've got. Desperation. So, wow, just no one amongst thieves, I guess is the expression. Mary, you are on, so it's your choice.
Oh, okay. Well, I think with the overwhelming discussion, it has to be Patrick Grady. He is going to be my Zoomer of the week. Because that really is just disgusting. And I don't think 2 days holiday is going to teach him a lesson either. So
no.
And anyone listening, nickname is Minnie Murrell. That's what we're using, that nickname.
Okay.
But thanks for choosing me. Thanks for choosing me, Mary.
You're a winner again now.
Right, that's it. So we are going to wrap up the show, which is been great to have you with us. It's great to have Allan on. We're trying to have more guests on the show going forward because we want you to see the people who are pushing forward in these initiatives, like Allan and other people as well. Get them on, and perhaps they can give us some inspiration, give you some inspiration as well. Many people working. We did a post today actually about who do you think is a hero in the anti-nationalist movement, and we've got lots of people, so many people working together. So we hope that as part of the majority, we can bring those people to your attention as well. Remember, next week we will be back on Wednesday, not Thursday. So that's a new date. We're going to try it out for a little bit, see how that goes. Then thank you all the donors. UK Union Voice, United Against Separation, Scotland Matters, I guess, because Allan was on there as well. I'm not going to leave you with thought of the week, but we're just going to run this video one more time. Let's just, maybe no, at least if once or twice.
Yeah.
Now, you want a referendum next year. What will we get first, a ferry or a referendum?
Right, well, come on, I have to do one more time.
One more. Our faces are golden. Play it.
Oh, we've worn it out. We've definitely worn it out. We've played it too much.
Come on, a referendum next year. What will we get first, a ferry or a referendum?
What's that guy's name, Mark? Is that Jeff Aberdeen?
No, I don't think
The
so.
interviewer.
Oh, I know. I can't remember his name right offhand. Anyway, thank you all for being with us tonight. It's been our pleasure. And thank you all for your comments. Good night from me.
That's
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll talk to you soon.